Hello and welcome to today's video. We will be speaking about the top 5 Linux security best practices every admin should know. So I recently wrote an article for IT Pro Today on the top 5 Linux security best practices every admin must know. You can find a link to this article in the description. In the meantime, let's run through it in our virtual machine. So we're inside our Kali box over here. Let's first of all talk about securing remote access. So, Secure Shell or SSH, commonly used in Linux machines especially, is the lifeline for Linux administrators. But attackers also commonly target it. There are a few steps to harden Secure Shell. First of all, use SSH key pairs instead of password authentication, always. One of the best ways to secure SSH access is using SSH key pairs instead of password-based authentication, which can be vulnerable to threats, for example, brute force and dictionary attacks. So to generate SSH key pairs, go ahead and open your terminal. So inside my terminal, let's just go ahead and type SSH-keygen, hit enter, and we can see it's generated a public-private key pair. What's happened here is it has generated us an ED25519 key pair. So this is an algorithm that it's used, and it's Edwards Curve Digital Signature Algorithm, which is EDDSA, and it uses a curve 25519, which is a highly secure elliptic curve. It's considered more secure and faster than older algorithms like RSA or ECDSA, and it produces smaller keys, only 256 bits, while providing your same strong security. So I'm just going to go ahead and hit enter. This is actually where I would like this to be saved, inside SSHID. Let's go ahead and hit enter. It's created the directory.ssh, a hidden directory. So I can go ahead and I can create a passphrase if I like. There's my passphrase, you can't see it. Prompted to do it again, and it's telling me that my identification has been saved here. Public key has been saved here. There's the key fingerprint, and there's the keys random art image. So you can now copy this key pair, or you can copy the public key to your server or wherever else, and all that you'll do is you'll use the SSH-copy-ID command. So what it's done is it's given me, because I'm working only on a local machine here, my VM, it's given me a whole bunch of parameters, but I could execute this remotely to save my public key to a server or somewhere else. So that's it for SSH and using SSH key pairs instead of password authentication. Let's move along. And I'm going to go ahead and clear my screen. Something else that you can do is you can disable root login. So you can turn off root login with SSH by editing the SSH_config file, which is located in etc SSH. So follow these steps. We're inside our terminal. Just change directory inside my terminal here. Clear my screen just to make things a bit easier to see. And from here, I can navigate to my SSH configuration directory, which is, we can change directory to etc SSH, hit enter. And I'm in etc-ssh. If I do ls, we can see what files I have in here. You can do ls-la to see all the hidden files and also have my permissions brought up. So the file that we're interested in here is this ssh_config file. So I'm going to use sudo because I'd like to write to disk, and what I'd like to do is I'd like to use Nano, which is my favorite text and code editor. You can use whatever you like, and I'd like to go ahead and modify SSH. You can hit underscore here, use tab completion, okay, SSH_config, which is the file that I'd like to go ahead and modify. And I hit enter. It's going to ask you for your password for sudo, and here we can see the SSH_config file ready for modification. So one of the first things that we can do is we can go ahead and change our default SSH port, and this is security through obscurity. So we're obscuring something to make ourselves more secure. So the default port for SSH is port 22. Changing it to a non-default port adds an extra layer of security by reducing exposure to common attacks. So we're going to open up our SSH config file and we're going to find our line that says port 22. So how we go ahead and we do this, we can just use our arrows here and we can go all the way down to where our port number is specified. So this is our host and it's specifying there. We can see where the port is port number 22. I can go ahead and I can change this. So I can just uncomment this and I can go ahead and I can change this port 22 to something ephemeral. So let's say port 8900. And what we can do is we can just make that neat. We can control O to save, hit enter, control X, and it's as simple as that. My default port for SSH has been changed. Something else that you can do is you can add multi-factor authentication. I've written extensively on this and created videos on it. You can just navigate or go to my IT Pro Today profile and you can see where I've written an article on securing SSH with multi-factor authentication using Google Authenticator. Let's go ahead and clear our screens. So, something else underrated, but what we can actually must do is we must keep our system updated. So you're going to use your package manager, depending on what distribution you're using. It could be Yum DNF. In this case, it's a Kali box, so I'm going to use apt. So I hit sudo apt update, and double ampersand sudo upgrade. So I can hit the yes flag. So let's break this down. Update is updating the operating system. Upgrade is upgrading all packages. So we want to update the operating system to patch any vulnerabilities, and we want to upgrade all software packages because if there is a vulnerability in a package that's been installed, it's a vector or it's a way of access into the machine and it presents a security risk. So we always want to upgrade all our packages. For example, Python 2, you shouldn't be using because it is vulnerable. It's just one example. There are many others. Can just go ahead and hit enter. I've given it the yes flag, so what it's going to do is it's not going to prompt me for any yes or no. It's just going to go ahead and update my system. Let it do its job. apt is still working. Okay, and my system has now been updated and all packages have been upgraded. What we can also do is we can use unattended upgrades. I've created a article on this before. So it's essentially creating a cron job, and a cron job, as we know, is a scheduled task in Linux. And what we can do is we can use unattended upgrades. So to install unattended upgrades, and what this will do is this will automatically update and upgrade your system. You can just use your package manager. So in my case, it's apt. So sudo apt install. And we go ahead and unattended dash upgrades, and it's going to go ahead and it's going to install unattended upgrades, and then I can go ahead and configure and use unattended upgrades, which will create a cron job or a scheduled task, which will automatically update and upgrade my system. See that apt is working. Progress is 78%, 89% progress. We can see that unattended upgrades has been installed. To use, you can just type in unattended dash upgrades, and we can hit enter. And okay, I need to be root to run this application, so sudo unattended dash upgrades, hit enter. Get help on unattended upgrades. You can just type in, needs to be done with sudo unattended upgrades dash help. Let's see what our options are. Okay, and it's going to give you your options and flags, and you can go ahead and configure unattended upgrades to automatically update and upgrade your system. Okay, something that can also be done is we can configure firewalls. So properly configured firewall blocks unauthorized access before it reaches your server or your machine. I've previously done an in-depth video on using UFW, uncomplicated firewall. You can go ahead and take a look at my IT Pro Today contributor page using IP tables and NF tables. But let's just chat about how to get started. So first of all, UFW Uncomplicated Firewall is a free tool. On Debian-based systems, you can use UFW directly from the command line. For example, you can allow specific traffic with the commands like this. So first of all, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure it's installed. So I'm going to, you can just go ahead and type UFW and then give version. I can see that it's not installed. It's not found, but would I like to install it? Yes. Hit enter, and it's going to go ahead and install the Uncomplicated Firewall. Hey, we can see that Uncomplicated Firewall UFW has been installed. I'm a fan of clearing my screen. We can go ahead and do that. Hit enter now. If I type in UFW, it's recognized it, and version. It's going to give us a whole bunch of, okay, it's given me, it said invalid syntax, but it's UFW command. And it's going ahead and it's given us all the commands that we can use with UFW. So let's clear our screen again and we can chat about allowing certain protocols. So we can do this, UFW. And if we want to allow SSH or disallow SSH, I can allow SSH and I'll go ahead and I hit enter. Okay, you need to be root. Remember that, sudo UFW, UFW, allow SSH. Go ahead and smack enter. And rules are updated. So if we want to disallow SSH, we can go ahead and we can do sudo UFW disallow. I think it's disallow. Soon find out. SSH. No, it's given us. Okay, disable, enable, allow, deny any rule. So we're supposed to be using the deny keyword. So let's do clear. Let's do sudo UFW deny SSH. And we can see that rules have been updated. I would like to allow SSH. So we can just go ahead and hit allow SSH again, and we can clear our screens. So if you're going to look for the status of the Uncomplicated Firewall, you can just do sudo UFW status, enter, it's inactive, and we can activate it. So it's, if the status is inactive, we can go ahead and type in sudo UFW enable. Oh, excuse that. No, I don't want to install that. Clear my screen and excuse my typo. I'd like to enable it. Okay, and this should file is active and enabled on system startup. So if I go ahead and I take a look at the status again, we can see that the status is active and it's giving me a couple of rules. Let's go ahead and clear our screen. So something else that we can do is implement access controls. You should always follow the rule of least privilege. And as a best practice, assign permissions using role-based access control or RBAC. So you can also use sudo and Linux natively to assign administrative privileges sparingly. Something else that we can do is we can monitor and we can audit logs. So Linux systems use syslog as a standard for logging events, which stores logs in the var log directory. So inside var log, you can use the ls command to see the logs. So for example, auth.log records authentication attempts and current.log logs kernel operations. Your log files may differ slightly based on the distribution you use, but everyone will be using this syslog standard. Inside var log, you can use ls to see the logs. All right, so I can just ls inside var log, and I can see here where all my log files are. Okay, in this virtual machine, we can see inside var log, we've got alternatives log, boot log, depackage log, failed to ban log, etc., etc. On your machine, you might find auth.log and current.log and actually syslog inside your log files. Remember that whatever environment that you're using, if you're managing this, if you're an administrator, remember that you're going to have to configure centralized logging, which I've gone through in a previous video. So what you can do is you can set up centralized logging, you can do a whole bunch of things, and I can use native Linux tools and commands like grep to search inside logs. All logs have a standardized format, but for example, if I wanted to, I can also output, or I can output the contents of a log file to a text file for easy searching or saving somewhere else. So let's just say I would like to cat, well, it's going to want me to do this as sudo. And I would like to cat, let's just talk about the boot log, boot.log, and I would like to output it to boot underscore log.txt, it's going to give me permission denied. If you need to do some troubleshooting here, you can just log in, or you can make yourself root with sudo su. Now that I'm root, let's just go ahead and let's cat boot.log. Let's output it to boot underscore log.txt. And we can see that that's been done. So let's say I want to cat boot underscore log.txt. There's no output. Let's just see if we can cat. That means there's nothing in that log file. Let's just go ahead and let's cat, let's see, dpackage.log. Okay, and we can see that there's a few dpackage logs. Let's run the same thing. We don't have to do sudo. Let's just say we'd like to output it. So dpackage log, use your redirect operator. We'd like to output it to dpackage.txt to work with, or to grep, or do something else. We hit enter, and that's been outputted. So we can just dpackage, we can cat dpackage.txt, and we can see there, or we can grep dpackage dpkg.txt, and or we look for a word here. Let's look for startup, grep startup in dpackage.txt. We can see that grep has found the 2 instances of startup. So that's essentially working with native Linux commands with your log. And like I said, we've been through in-depth in previous video and articles on setting up centralized logging and so on. Well, that's the end of today's video. I really hope that you've enjoyed this, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.